Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Sanders, and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today, what I want to do is talk about this unusual watch company. It's called the JS Watch Company, and it's located in Reykjavik, Iceland, which is the capital of Iceland. And the one thing I will say, if you've heard of JS Watch Company, it may be because of their incredibly creative and fun ads that they have, and their website too. They're probably the most creative when it comes to talking about themselves and their watches. In a similar way that H. Moser makes fun of certain things with marketing. Okay, the guy who's the head guy there is master watchmaker Gilbert O. Gudjonsson, and the company started in 2005, and it's been going along for years now, and the only thing about the company that is a little, I wish they had another way of doing it. They don't seem to tell us much about the kind of movements they have, but it seems to be pretty much the same kind of movements. And anyway, I'll talk about that in a second. Now they have these different collections. This is a sample from the first one. It's called the 101, and it's 38 millimeters. Now they have another one, collection 101 for 32 millimeters, which is for people with smaller wrists or women. Collection too. Now, in this collection, they have white dials, black dials, Roman, and Arabic numbers. So you have sort of this pattern of watches and watchmaking. Now, the big thing about the company is that they'll come up with a picture. Every one of their watch collections. So this is the movement we're using. They're all automatics. They all look pretty much like this. There are some differences, and after looking around and sort of some other stuff that I knew about them, I was pretty sure it was a Soprod M100. Now the M100, as you may or may not know, goes back to the Soprod A10. And the Soprod A10 has its roots in terms of design in the Seiko 4L. And the Seiko 4L, now most people say, oh, well, I know the Seiko 4L, that was supposed to be a replacement for the, it's for the ETA 2892-A2. Well, what they did was, in one ways, that's correct. But in other ways, it's totally misleading. What they wanted was something to be sort of upscale. They wanted to create an upscale movement, but they wanted to sell it to watch companies who said, look, we don't want to have to, we've been using this ETA movement, it's worked fine for us, and we'd have to change all of the posts and all of this other stuff. And I said, no. What we did was that we designed it so it could just replace an ETA 2892-A2. Now, there's a big difference between cloning an ETA movement and simply having the same post positions and size and things like that. And that was what they did. So it's the latter. Now, what they came up with with Soprod was this was called the Soprod A10. And the A10, there was some kind of weird thing that the Chinese bought the movement maker. They bought Soprod, and so Seiko pulled out because they didn't want the Chinese with all their technology, but they had sort of left behind this the A10, which later became the Soprod M100. So essentially, this is the movement that they appear to be using, and like I said, I'm not very happy with them at all. I mean, if you're gonna sell watches, tell them. I mean, the prices are not crazy prices. I mean, like for an standard movement and a good standard movement, the prices are quite reasonable. All right. So what are you hiding? Anyway, other than that, that's my only real complaint about JS is that they do use a good movement. They don't tell us what it is, but we sort of know. So what's the point? Okay. So let's go on, take a look. Now, beside they have the Collection 101, then they have the Collection 101 10-year edition. So in 2015, when they had been around for 10 years, they came out with something that was just a little fancier and the price was a little higher, $18.52. But again, we're not talking about gouge prices. We're talking about prices that, really pretty much reflect the kind of watch that you can expect from a movement like the one they have. In fact, it's actually probably pretty good. Okay, the next group is called the Islandus 44 millimeter. Now, these are simply larger. The other ones have been 38 millimeters. And these jump up in price up to $2,089. By the way, these prices are right from their site, and they're the sort of the entry level price. If you put fancier and fancier stuff on the watch, the price goes up. So anyway, and this will show you what the back looks like. So it's not a great size movement. It's relatively small. I've got a A10 in my Christian Vanderclaw, and again, it's not a huge movement. It's probably the same size as the 2892, but this is pretty typical of what you can see. Now, the thing about the smaller movement, the 38 millimeters, is that in the back, the movement looks bigger. So in these 44 millimeters, it looks smaller, but there's more things you can do with it. All right. Now, here's another Islandus line. Their lines, I'm not sure the logic of them all, but they have different kinds of things that have different themes to them. Some of them are like are from 1919. This is an earlier dial or earlier style that they had from the other ones. Okay, now these two are really very interesting. The SIF North Atlantic Rescue Timer, NART. The North Atlantic Rescue Timer is the official watch of the Icelandic Coast Guard. And believe me, if you live in Iceland, you need a Coast Guard out in the sea. Man, I tell you, people you really want to see. Now, they have two models of this. One is the current one is a 2280, and then they have a 1948 style, and it's pretty much the same watch, but not the same watch. It has the small date windows, or is it 3 o'clock, whereas on the standard one is at 6 o'clock. This is, again, if I must complain about something, is that they do have awfully small date windows, and that's something I think that would really help their products. Okay, moving right along. Now they have a series called the Friesland, and the Friesland is a style. They're 42 millimeters. This one, the 42 millimeter, is called the Friesland 42 millimeters, but they're all 42 millimeters. Then they have the Friesland Classic, and then they have one called the 1941 that looks a lot like your pilot style, your Flieger watches. These are all over 2,000, not a lot. The most expensive is the Classic for $2,378, and the entry level would be $2,089 for that. Again, it's a style and more than anything else. Now, this next one are the Vinland GMT. The Vinland GMT is a very interesting one, and it's got the second time, the dual time, at a 6 o'clock subdial. There doesn't seem to be any kind of pusher or puller or anything else to set up the second time. So I imagine they do it perhaps with the dial. They don't tell you, which is unless it's in the fine print and I missed it. But it's a cool subdial. I mean, if you for a second time, instead of having a third arm that goes around the main dial, you have this little subdial that is on the different times for a different time zone. They also point out that this can be used sort of like a chronograph by setting it and then timing it to a different time. If you set it, for example, set it to 0, and then use it in the second hand. Not much of a chronograph, but you can use with that. They fancied up the rotor a little. It's a gold color. It's not made of gold. Some watches have this one, for example, has a gold rotor. So this one they colored gold to save some bucks, which is probably a more frugal sense. Now this is fairly expensive though, $51.67. And I know they do a lot of work, but the work is around. It's not on the movement, but it's the movement in conjunction with the dials and the different kinds of models that they're making. This is where the watchmakers come in very handy. Now this last one is got to be my favorite. It's the World Cup limited edition. All right. In 2018, somehow Iceland made it to the World Cup in football, soccer World Cup. Now, the competition to make it to the World Cup, there are a lot of times, some great big countries never made the cut. They didn't for one reason or another, and every now and then some little country like Iceland do. So it was a huge deal. The population of Iceland is 362,860. To give you an idea how small it is, I live in Connecticut, and we're one of the smallest states, both in size and in population. Our next door neighbor, Rhode Island, is smaller, but that's it. I think nobody else is smaller. And our population is 10 times the size of that of Iceland. And yet they somehow made the World Cup, and it was nothing. I just can imagine. And so they made a special World Cup version of their watches. And at the bottom it has Fáir Island. I probably said it wrong. What it means is for Iceland, which I thought was sort of cool, on a watch. It's $24.38. It was a limited edition to 300 copies, but it's one that's really cool. You can see up in the fourth quadrant, up in the around 10 o'clock, is that beginning at 9 o'clock, it'll say 45, and then you can have, and as it goes toward 12, it's a countdown to 0 for the last for the timing of the game. Anyway, cool watch. Iceland lasted a little while, but not long. It was, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. I imagine the entire country, to everyone, and every dog and cat too. So anyway, I really like this particular watch. There are a few other ones that they have, but these are the main ones. And like I said, is the only two complaints I have about JS is they could tell us, make it easy, just say this is the kind of movement we have, and then make if they have some way to make a larger date window, that would be nice too. Listen, I'd like to hear what your opinion is. This unique little watch company that's a lot of fun. Visit their website, JS Watch. More fun. They just have a lot of fun with their they're sort of their entire way of doing things. They also have one of the more incredible celebrity walls of any watchmaker I know. People pay millions to have these celebrities endorse their watches. They have these guys who go to Iceland and stop by the shop and have their picture taken, and they probably have more celebrities than any other watch company around. And it's not. And it's not something, it's not a paid endorsement. Just, hey, come on and hang out with us. Cool place. Okay, let's hear your opinion. And until Sunday, when we have another watch review, collection review, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.